Now, keep in mind, during that time frame, she was claiming that she was earning money. But I don't think she was. I think she was using credit cards to convince her husband that she was making money with her MLMs. So when it was Christopher Watt's turn to put a card on the house of cards, he took $10,000 out of his 401k and saved their home by paying those 3 house payments. In my opinion, that is when their house of cards came tumbling down. I don't believe that his girlfriend had anything to do with anything. I think that what led up to the tragedy was their financial mess.
That clip was from a creator who is defaming Shan'Ann, blaming Shan'Ann, claiming that Chris Watts is an abuse survivor, and who is basically Cindy Watts' mouthpiece. She's using Cindy Watts, and Cindy Watts is using her to try and make the point that Chris Watts was the good guy in the relationship, that Chris Watts was the victim of abuse, that Shan'Ann was the bad person. Now, Shan'Ann was not perfect in any way, shape, or form. Shan'Ann had many, many, many flaws. No different from anyone else. We all have flaws. But this woman, I'm not going to mention her name, is basically trying to say that Shan'Ann abused her children, that Shan'Ann, it's all Shan'Ann's fault for their financial situation, that Chris Watts was an abused husband. Now, she does make some relevant points. And maybe Shan'Ann didn't always handle finances in the best way. Maybe Shan'Ann didn't always do the right thing. But to try and make the point that Shan'Ann deserves to be murdered, to try and claim that Shan'Ann abused her children, to try and claim that Shan'Ann abused Chris Watts, that abused her husband, it's just ridiculous. And there's no evidence to say that those things are true whatsoever. If Shan'Ann was such a bad person as this person is trying to claim, why didn't Chris Watts just get a divorce? For Cindy Watts, it's all Shan'Ann's fault. She blames Shan'Ann for her own death. She blames Shan'Ann for ruining her son's life. She blames Shan'Ann for the reason that her son is in prison and is never getting out. Cindy Watts still blames Shan'Ann. And she is using this creator who is defaming Shan'Ann as her soundpiece, as her mouthpiece. Don't be surprised if the Watts try and get an appeal filed or made for their son in the future, because they are still in denial about the crime that their son committed. No innocent person would put their children in an oil tank. She wants to talk about Shan'Ann being abusive. She wants to talk about Shan'Ann mismanaging the finances. She wants to talk about Shan'Ann just sitting on her ass while her husband worked. Yet she doesn't mention anything about Chris Watts putting his own children in oil tanks. You can't complain that somebody is an abusive mother and an abusive wife When that very husband, who's supposed to be a sympathizing victim, when you're expecting us to sympathize with Chris Watts. Chris Watts put his children in oil tanks. Chris Watts told the world that he didn't know where his family were. How do you think the children got in oil tanks? Shan'Ann didn't put them in there. Cindy Watts still blames Shan'Ann for what happened to her son. And she's using this creator who's defaming, shaming, dragging Shan'Ann's name through the mud as her soundpiece. And I think it's absolutely disgusting.